I just had a junior goalie from Ontario about a week ago. He'd been practicing really hard, doing everything, in the performance wheel, all his physical, mental, cognitive, perceptual. And then they're supposed to play on Friday night, and he gets the call from the coach on Thursday that he's not starting the game. So now that's that self-interference. Monkey mind is thoughts, any kind of thinking. So, for example, if his flashlight of attention is on the coach, okay, and if all of a sudden, let's say a minute into that game, the other goalie gets injured, or the other goalie gives up a couple of goals, bad goals. Well, if he hasn't mentally prepared for that game, and he's still angry at the coach, and his flashlight is on the coach, and now when he gets into that game, he's not fully present. His flashlight is not on the play that's happening in front of him. So there's an example where there's a goalie who could have got totally sidetracked because all he was doing was thinking about the coach and the coach's decisions and playing time. Another monkey mind would be, and no disrespect to the goalie coaches, but let's say you go for a goalie lesson, okay, and you're working on your RVH or you're working on your glove positioning. Do you want to be thinking about that during the course of the game? No. The whole point of training is we want to eventually get it muscle memory, where we're not thinking about mechanics. That would be another monkey mind. So, and you'll see that often if a goalie has a goalie lesson, and they go out the following day, sometimes they will really struggle because they're really trying to do what their goalie coach has asked them to do, as opposed to just keep working on it till eventually it becomes more automatic. So monkey mind is basically any kind of where you're thinking about thinking. You could be thinking about, like we were talking earlier, like if now all of a sudden the goalie goes to a new team and his defensive system isn't like it was before, and he's thinking about his teammates' behavior or lack thereof, now he's not paying attention to what he needs to be paying attention to. So that's an example of monkey mind. It could be the novice or Adam goalie that's really worried about what his mom and dad are thinking, what in the stands. Or it could be for our junior goalies, if it's in their draft year, they're all worried about what NHL scouts are thinking about them. That would be an example of monkey mind. So the reason why I mentioned the breath as an anchor point, it's one shot, one play, one period, one game at a time. So again, when we're feeling the breath, okay, so for example, my personal preference, I like to put the hands here. And the reason is when I breathe in, I'm going to feel that little expansion of my ribs and my tummy. And when I breathe out, I'm going to feel that little contraction. So again, if I place my hand here and here, this hand should be relatively still. If I put it here, I'm going to imagine for some of the kids that have never practiced this before, imagine there's a balloon inside your tummy. And when you breathe in, the balloon is going to expand. And when you breathe out, the balloon is going to deflate. And that's another way. If kids are really having a hard time with this the first time around in the sitting posture, they could literally practice lying down at first and just put a book, or they can go to Walmart and buy a little 2.5 pound weight, and they just put it on their tummy. And when they breathe in, they feel the weight rise. And when they breathe out, they feel the weight fall. It just gives them something very concrete to bring their brain to focus on. For me, I like to feel the sensation of the air going in my nose. So I can literally feel that temperature change. Other days I can notice that more air might be going into one nostril than the other. So think of the breath kind of like you're out in Vancouver. So think of it like the wave in the ocean. Wave rises and then the wave falls. So there's that. For some of my clients, they really like that point where they feel that kind of transition. They feel the breath come in and there's that little silent pause, and they'll just keep their focus there. For other clients, when they exhale, there's another little pause. And at that time, that's where they're keeping their mind focused on just that little pause in between the inhale or exhale on those transitions. And you can fool around with it. You can have a little fun with it. Some people will focus more on the inhale. Other clients will focus more on the exhale. And some of our clients just literally feel the rhythm of the breath in its entirety. And again, everybody's a little bit different. Some people, there's going to be days where you practice this and you really feel the breath in your tummy. And there's other days where you're going to go do this and you might feel that temperature change or really feel the sensations. That's what I'm emphasizing. It's the actual felt sensation of the breath. And the mistake that a lot of goalies do, Kev, is they say, okay, Johnny Stevenson says 20 minutes, so I'm going to go for 40. This is not like a business project. It's not like, okay, I'm going to go really give a double workout today in the gym. I cannot stress this enough. I made this mistake a few years ago where my goal was through this practice was to get more focused, to get more of a quiet mind. You do not want to put any goals onto this practice. There's no outcome. This will take, I'm asking goalies to trust more in the process. When we talk about the proper P's, the 3 P's of proper focus is present moment, focus on the process, and again, positive. So for me, we're not trying to do anything with this practice. Like too many goalies, when I tell them this, they're like, oh, okay, I want to get calm. I want to get, this is going to help me be more in the moment. Let go of all of that. Just, again, follow the breath. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. And when your mind wanders, if anything, note what's on your mind. So, for example, it's a tough time. I just explained to you, my dad, unfortunately, had a heart attack on this past weekend. Now, if I sat down here and did this practice, Kev, what do you think is going to happen, during the course of this practice, right? My mind is going to wander to my dad, okay? Anything wrong with that? No, it's called being normal. It's called being human. I'm not trying to block out that thought. I'm not trying to get rid of it. I'm not trying to change it. It's acknowledging. Oh, you can call it whatever you want. Monkey mind, busy brain, Mr. Future, Mr. Anxiety, because when you name it, you're not it anymore. And so I could just, there's Mr. Anxiety, Mr. Busy Brain. Thank you. And then just keep bringing it back to where you feel the breath the most easily. And ideally, if we're doing proper belly breathing, we want to feel it here. If we tend to feel it here, that's when we can start to get the anxiety because we've got too much CO2. We're not getting the right gas exchange. So ideally, that's why I like to, place the hands so we're making sure that we're getting the proper biomechanics when we're doing the breathing. So now all of a sudden, if you have these thoughts running through the course of the game, now, just like your physical training, if you've strengthened your legs, you have you've done the hard work in the gym. Now you know the push is going to be there. You're going to have that oomph behind your push, whether it's, your T-push or shuffle or recovery. Same with now, all of a sudden, because you've practiced this. And a lot of times people, I can't emphasize this enough, a lot of times people will say, well, I don't feel really good today. I don't want to do my meditation. No, that's actually when you want to do it, because you're learning how to just be with your emotions, knowing that they're not going to last forever. So if I'm in the midst of a game and all of a sudden, I start getting that self-interference, now by feeling the breath, we're literally learning how to get out of my head and getting into that quiet mind, into that quiet spot. But again, if people aren't practicing this, if they're only doing 30 seconds here, 30 seconds there, is it going to work in the game? No, it's that daily repetition. That's what's going to make, because there's going to be days when you do this where you're going to literally feel like Buddha, like you're going to have this quiet mind. And there's going to be other days when you go to do this practice where the sound of the grass growing is going to throw you off. But what you're learning, you're teaching your brain how to direct your focus at will. And that's, so if all of a sudden you have those thoughts, when you start to realize that a thought is just a thought. What you learn through this practice is you can have a thought and a feeling without that thought and feeling having you. So if all of a sudden your mind wanders because you've practiced this, okay, it's just a thought. And then you can learn how to, what I call decenter. You don't get caught up with your thoughts. That's where this practice is really going to help, because you're going to have monkey mind. That's going to happen. And this gives you a very practical way of slowing your breathing down and getting out of your head. And then you can redirect your focus back to, being on task. So if the mind wanders, that's okay. Now you've got a tool in the toolbox per se that you can bring it back. But it's not a technique, Kevin. This is literally a practice. And how do you get good at anything? You've got to practice.